in a rural area of Iowa, this is the place to go because it's neat, it's vibrant, and there's lots of entrepreneurial activity. So the third group that Sarah asked me to talk about are retirees. And I'm going to hit this from a couple of different approaches. But I think the most important thing is this statistic. And if you're interested, one of the things, Sarah, we didn't get to look at yesterday is this new informatic graphic that's come out of the Council on Foundations around baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer. How many of you are baby boomers? Yeah, there are a lot of us. In 2010, at the decennial census, the estimate was there were 69 million of us. We're no longer the largest generation, but we're the wealthiest generation. That'll change. And according to this source, and I've seen it in other places, is beginning in January of 2011, every day for the next 19 years, 10,000 baby boomers are going to retire. That is a massive trend. Now, are all of them wealthy? No. Are all of them going to move? No. But the ones that do have the capability and the health are likely to move. And about a third of them have indicated that they're going to move someplace fundamentally different. When my sister retired, she ran one of the trauma centers in San Diego. Where did she end up? Chloride, Arizona. Anybody been to Chloride? Yeah. Chloride's quite a bit different than San Diego. Fair? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's south of Las Vegas. It's an old mining town. And they scoured, her and her husband scoured 5 states looking for the right fit. They were tired of the 3-hour commute. They wanted to get someplace that was simpler. They wanted to get a little bit of land. They wanted to get a community that they had a connection to. And they chose Chloride. It's an opportunity for large and small communities that is really unparalleled in our history. Why do this? While they have different spending habits, the ones that are moving typically do have resources and they're going to spend money. They have knowledge. And while some may not get engaged in your community, they may simply live there, others want to get very engaged and they're going to bring those talents. Where I went to high school, the community, a VP from Dell who grew up in my hometown has moved back and has become a powerhouse in helping that community. Connections galore. Now, there is this debate, and some of you may be thinking about this, that, and it's come up a half a dozen times in the last 3 months in various forums where I've been, where some people argue passionately that attracting retirees is a great idea. Others say, no, it's a trap. You don't want to do that. And this, again, comes back to understanding the research. Not all retirees are equal. And we're simply showing you 5 distinct groups. There's this group that are semi-retired, and they still want to work. They got a lot of life ahead. They've got a lot to give. But they want to make a change. They've got that career in the military done. They've finished up as a police officer, or they simply have reached that point where they've gone through one too many mergers and they're going to go off and do something different, okay? Or they may be younger early retirees. They're very active. They've got a large future, and we can go down the continuum to those that are beginning to age and are losing their health. And what happens then is typically if they've relocated, they're going to relocate one more time back to where they have family, if they've moved to a community where they don't have family. And so understanding the kinds of entrepreneurs and how they're moving, and particularly the baby boomers that are moving, can represent a significant opportunity. One of the powerful things about retirees is it adds stability to your economy. You guys went through a tough time. But in communities that have a higher percentage of retirees, their incomes tend to be much more stable than other industries, so it kind of balances out the bad times, and they weather the recession much better than other communities in the United States that saw the wild fluctuations because of what happened to tourism or manufacturing and the like. So, for retirees, what are the core attributes? Culture is going to be important. These are folks that have been around the tree a few times. They know what they want. And when my sister and her husband were scouting, they went to the community and they talked to people to say, okay, are there folks here that we'd like to spend time to? That was kind of their bottom line. So is your community prepared? When somebody comes into your community you don't know and you think they're just stopping for a lunch on their way through, but in fact they may be scouting your community. They haven't called the chamber. They're simply doing that testing to get a feel. Lifestyle preferences, it's going to be different, you know. One of the things folks tell us is, I'm 5 minutes now from a tea time. And I can get it any day. And I love it. Is the golf course as great as what I had in Denver or Seattle? No. But the convenience is really powerful. And they love it. The amenity mix is different. And particularly importance of healthcare. When you're talking about retirees, even healthy retirees, they're going to look at your healthcare system and your access. Doesn't mean it has to be in your town, but is it in your area, and is it available, and is the quality with a strong reputation? They do their research. And the kinds of housing that you have, particularly if you want to keep them, is going to be somewhat different than the kinds of housing that you would use if you're trying to attract young talent that's just emerging into the workforce. So let me wrap with a story from my hometown. Sarah and I had been talking about this, and she encouraged me to maybe share this with you. And again, just to give you a little MO, any of you ever been to Lincoln, Nebraska? You've probably flown over it. Yeah, some of you have. Okay. And the MO for Lincoln is, it was always the second largest city, and it was where the capital was, so state government was there. It's where the University of Nebraska main campus is, so it was a university town. It was a comfortable place, stable, not terribly dynamic. And one of the things a number of years ago that the community began to look at is we've got all this young talent coming into the university, and we're losing 80% of it. After it graduates, it goes someplace else in the world. It doesn't stay. And something seemed wrong about that result. And so there's kind of this interesting development called the Haymarket District that has really made a difference in the ability of Lincoln to retain well-educated talent that is drawn to Lincoln largely because of the university. So the Haymarket District, Lincoln was established in the 1850s. And the Haymarket Square was really what it was. It was a marketplace for people to buy and sell hay and other agricultural products. And then the railroad laid its tracks right through that district. And in those days, late 1880s, early 40s, this became the warehouse district, like a lot of communities have. You've got some like that as well, with big brick buildings where freight would come off the railroad and then it would be distributed to markets throughout the region. And we've got this beautiful Burlington Railroad Station that's kind of that 1920s classic architecture. And in 1942, as the warehouse district was losing its purpose, because what happened? Trucking was starting to come in, and you no longer needed 5-story warehouses for freight, because freight that was being handled there is now being handled by truck, and so the warehouses had gone to the edge of towns in big single-story structures. But Russell Stover Candy decided that they would locate there, and eventually had 6 buildings in their manufacturing complex. And that kind of kept this district alive, but it was in decline for a long time. That kind of took the decline away and said, okay, we've got activity, it's going to be all right. And then in 1979, they closed. And there was nothing there but crime and violence. It was a place you did not want to go to after dark. What happened? Just what you guys do. A group of city leaders, the city council, the mayor, the Chamber of Commerce, said, you know, we can't have this light on the edge of downtown and in the core of our community. And so the city designated this as a district, secured historical designation. They went out and found the Main Street program that they used to create a vision for this district and its redevelopment. And what's happened since is it's now the most vibrant place in Lincoln. It's 5 blocks, depending on where you're at, from campus and the university. It's pretty interesting as how it's developed. It first became an entertainment district, and I'm going to take you to the next slide and show you a couple of things. A new arena and convention center were built. Landscape was built. This is what's called the rail yard, which can handle about 2,000 to 3,000 people. It's an outdoor pavilion. In the summer, big screen TVs. There were several thousand people who would show up for World Cup games to be together. Again, we're now beginning to fit the MO of the millennials, things that they want to do. But more importantly, this district has now evolved into two other things that I think are powerfully important as you think about your redevelopments. You were talking about what you're doing in your community. Is, number one, it's now become a place where people live. Almost 10,000 folks now live in the downtown and the Haymarket district. The average age is 32 years old. Because these young people, they want to live in that kind of setting. They're looking for that at truth. Not everybody, but some. So it's this vibrant neighborhood now. The other thing that happened is because the talent was there, there's now somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, 15 technology companies that have established their headquarters in this community. And one of them is this group of young men. They were interns in the athletic department at the University of Nebraska, and what they did is they built spreadsheets for the coaches that they could use to track the performance of athletes. And when they graduated, they go, what if we make that a business? And so Huddle Technologies has come into being. And today, or not today, but last week, ground was broken for a multi-million-dollar headquarters. There's about 500 employees in Lincoln with Huddle, another 250 in Omaha. And that headquarters is going to be right there, and a lot of the workers are going to live right in that district, which means it's vibrant, it's alive, and it's contributing to this ability of the community to retain young people. Now, those of you from small towns may go, that's neat, that's something Reno can do, it's something Las Vegas can do, it's something that, what did you refer to, the Big Five? Communities are probably doing this, as I understand. But we've got examples like Fairfield and Imperial, Nebraska, and Berry County, Michigan, rural places that at their scale are doing similar things, creating somewhat similar results by creating a competitive environment for talent. And that talent is helping reinvent and ensure the future of their communities. So with that, Sarah, I'm going to turn it back to you. This is just kind of the checklist of things that you might want to think about. Do you really have that deep vision, and have you engaged your community in being part of that vision? When the Haymarket redevelopment started, the vast majority of people in Lincoln thought it was a stupid idea that those buildings should be raised and parking lots should be put in place to take overflow from downtown. Now, that attitude has changed. But there were some heroic people, folks like Mayor Busales, who had a different vision, and they took that to the people. They engaged the citizens in saying, let's give this a try. That kind of courageous civic leadership. They took the time to know the opportunities, and I encourage you to do that as well. They got smart about how to do public-private partnerships, and they used their tool. Zoning, TIF. You can go on down the list of the things that have been used in these various communities to position them for success. And to key off of one of the points that was made earlier, these communities have gotten really smart about using incentives. They're not using incentives in many cases because communities can't afford to do that to try to buy economic development. They're finding developers and business folks who are there for the long haul saying, what do we need to do to make this deal work? And they're bringing that leverage in that kind of way. And so I think one of the key things in your toolbook is how do you get really smart when you invest, when you use incentives, and when you look at it and go, this deal's too rich. The potential for return is too high, and if we fail, it could create massive pushback from our community because we've now saddled them with too much debt or too many obligations for which that development is not giving us a return. So being smart about that becomes terribly important. Sarah, I'm going to turn it back to you.